What is up, YouTube? Been a while since I went live. Trying to bring it. You would think it was my first time doing this or something. Thank you to whoever smashed the like button. Um, my tripod, my little mobile tripod's being less than helpful right now. Good enough, maybe. Um, But yeah, I was hoping to go live at 7 p.m. However, Jeff's neighbor was augering post holes and it was extremely loud, so I knew the audio was going to be bad. Started pouring rain though, which means that he's no longer augering post holes. So here we are live. I got my scrum board behind me, hoping to talk to you guys a little bit about the scrum organization management method. Oh my goodness, this tripod. This tripod is not being my friend today. Otherwise, I figured let's do some Q&A. It's been a while since I did that. I clearly need to buy a better mobile tripod. So I just finished the audiobook. I just finished the audiobook, Scrum. Fantastic. I highly recommend it. I think you guys can find it on Audible if you want. And I'd come across the idea of Scrum before. Like, I'd seen it on TV shows like Silicon Valley, and I'd heard friends and acquaintances talk about how they used it, particularly if they were in software or engineering. But for whatever reason, I never really sat down and like tried to fully understand what Scrum was about. And then once I listened to the audiobook on it, it just became so clear that at least for someone like myself that loves to procrastinate and someone that just will live the entire project till the end and then tackle the entire project at once, that Scrum would definitely keep me way more accountable, as well as just more organized. And I know that when I'm more organized and more accountable, I definitely get more shit done. So we're starting to implement Scrum. I'll maybe show you guys around. It's like taken over my entire life. So this is the Scrum for YouTube right there. And then if we go into this other room, we got another Scrum board right there. That's just kind of me and the stuff I'm trying to accomplish. What do we got going on there? We got like, I want to write a book on money. YouTube stuff, the Vegas, OREC 2019. We want to do a special limo tour, launching 3 teachable courses, and then like also just getting more organized. Here's some property management stuff that I got my sister doing. So you can see we just kind of got that up and running today. True story, we buy houses. And then this is, actually, I maybe shouldn't show that, but that's Adam Martin and his deals and some of the private opportunities we're working on. Actually, one other thing I want to talk to you guys about, someone had mentioned on Instagram earlier today, and if you guys aren't following me on Instagram, you should, but they mentioned that I haven't really been documenting a lot of my own deals as much on YouTube. And why was that? And I don't actually have a good reason for that. I guess maybe I got a little bit tired of talking about myself and my deals, but I'm more than happy to do that again going forward. Oh, this tripod, guys. We're gonna have to call that good enough. My life is being dictated by a $10 Henry's tripod. But yeah, so update on some of the deals I've been doing. We just closed about a month ago on a single family home in the Western Fair Entertainment District. And I'm really excited by this property. I'm going to get some of it on video next week for you guys. It was kind of a hoarder living there. They really let the place fall apart. Like, I mean, absolutely had fallen apart. The back addition literally had a hole in the ceiling from where a handyman had DIY'd a skylight, and the skylight had just caved in at some point. Literally, like, raccoons would come and go. At one point in time, this was the master bedroom on the property. So I'm sure, as you guys can imagine, we did buy it at a discount. I think we got at a great deal. It's going to need a ton of work. One of the big things I'm debating is essentially the layout of the property. Kind of, it's just a single family home. The basement's not really usable. It's just good for storage. It wouldn't be worth underpinning to finish and to use as more living space, at least not right now. But it's 2 beds, 1 bath, and then they added on this master bedroom addition. And that's maybe, I don't know, what would that be? Maybe about 400 square feet, this addition. And the house is rather small to begin with, so that 400 square feet's a big 400 square feet. And so essentially, where we're at now is this addition needs to come off no matter what. But the area is transitioning. I think the best play for this is as an Airbnb. So I'm kind of at an impasse where the area, I believe the properties in that area are going to be worth a lot more in 4 or 10 years. 5 or 10 years. I'm not sure why I said 4 years. But should we do the addition now, or should we wait to see if that area does appreciate and then put a new or bigger addition on? Maybe instead of just replacing it with like a master bedroom, maybe we tear it down and build like a whole new larger living room, another bedroom or 2, and a bathroom on top of it. Once we've seen whether the area really appreciates, because it's essentially, it'd be like 3 houses in from the factory. And so if you guys aren't familiar, the factory is what they've done with Kellogg's, the Kellogg's old factory on Kellogg's Lane. Essentially, they've redeveloped it, turned it into an amusement park, Canada's largest indoor trampoline park, or second largest, the largest zip lining course. They're eventually going to have go-karting. They got like escape rooms, all that great stuff. Eventually, there's proposals to go ahead and add a hotel, and like a boutique hotel with like 140 rooms, I believe. There's a brewery there. There's eventually going to be like 3 restaurants. It's a really fantastic addition to London, Ontario's entertainment district. And so I think it's just a prime spot for Airbnb. But what do you guys think? Should we do the renovation right away and do either a small or big addition, or should we wait and see what happens to the area? Originally, I was thinking that we would just get it out of the way and do a decent sized addition, maybe add a little bit more living space, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. And then I kind of switched. I was like, well, if I'm going to Airbnb this, do I really need all those extra rooms? And what sort of people am I going to be attracting to that Airbnb? Maybe it makes sense just to replace the master bedroom with a new master bedroom addition. That would definitely be the cheapest option. But recently, I've really been starting to think, maybe I should just hold out, just tear off that addition, just get the property good enough, and then in 5 or 10 years, tear everything apart and completely rebuild either the entire house or essentially the entire house. And again, I would expect that we'll see massive appreciation. We did buy this house for under 100,000, so #deals. I'm really excited by it. It's going to be a shit ton of work. It'll probably be a fun project to document though, simply because there was a lot of stuff left behind by the previous owner. My computer finally restarted, so I'm just going to jump on YouTube myself so that I can see. I saw a few of you guys were commenting. Sorry, it's really hard on the mobile to be able to read it on the fly. I'm in the spot, guys. I'm sure you guys have been here before. I know my laptop's going to die. I've had to do just a couple hard restarts recently, and it's lagging a lot more than it used to. And in the past, what would happen is just someday it would just literally crash and never return. And I would think that that's bad luck, but I know deep down it's actually me not reading the signs. So I'm trying to be one of those people that takes more ownership of situations. So I do know that my laptop will die soon in the future. Hey, Lord Player, appreciate you jumping in. Hey, Nicole. Hey, Lee. Christopher. The name of the book is Scrum. It literally just SCRUM. Fantastic book, honestly. It dives into the history of how kind of Scrum came up, as well as just discussing how you can actually implement it. What I really like with Scrum is what we've done here is we got our project, and it's just kind of, we'll put the project name, and then I'll maybe get like cue cards and write out kind of a basic storyboard. So for example, for OREC 2019, what I did in the other room was I said I wanted to create London, Ontario and Southwestern Ontario's premier networking real estate event. And so that just kind of helps me constantly keep in frame the little tasks or mini goals that I'm setting out for myself, and helps me really focus in on, at the end of the day, what's going to bring the most value or what's going to help me best accomplish that story. Then what you do is break it out into a bunch of small tasks. What we're doing is kind of 1 week sprints, so you want to make sure that every single task can be done within 1 week. If it can't be done within 1 week, you haven't broken it down small enough, so you need to break it down into smaller pieces. Then what we got is in progress, so when you're going to tackle a task and get it done in the next week, grab it from here, move it over there, and essentially once you've actually completed it, it goes to done. And what I like is it just helps me really visualize what I've committed to this week, what's coming up in the near future, all that great stuff. So I'm going to just check some comments again. So yeah, I will link to the book in the video description down below. I'll do that after this video though. Lord Player asked, for how long are you planning to do this before you start having fun with your wealth? Good question. Someone asked me on Instagram as well. I kind of did like an Ask Me Anything, and they were asking, you know, what do the ladies think of my portfolio? And in response to your question, Lord Player, as well as kind of the question that I got on Instagram, it's like, the way I picture what I'm doing right now, I don't see anything I do or any way that I live as a sacrifice. That's just me personally. I know that other people want higher levels of consumption, or other people may desire other higher levels of consumption. It just doesn't do it for me. So I'm happy to keep living the way I am. And so, like, do I just want to retire forever on a beach in Costa Rica or something? It's just, again, not really my style. So no judgment towards those that want to. Figure out what you want and just go after it with laser-like focus, because, I mean, you got one life to live. But for me, I'd much rather pair whatever activity I want to do with the ability to kind of help people. I know that sounds corny or cheesy, but I've done the take a month off and play video games straight. I've done get high every day for a month and just goof around. And I've done the get drunk for essentially a month straight, just networking and hanging out with people. And again, no judgment to people that want to undertake those tasks or live that lifestyle. Just none of those were gratifying on the long term for me. So I don't see myself like quitting or stopping doing this. Maybe I'll take hiatuses from YouTube at points, but again, I don't see that on the near horizon. Patrick Farley, do you think buying real estate for renting out is becoming more and more risky each year for a beginner? I don't think it's necessarily becoming more risky. I think the only thing you really need to take into consideration is, are you buying for cash flow? If you're buying for cash flow, it's not that risky, especially if you're getting properties, they're kind of meeting that 1% rule. Sorry, my OCD is so angry right now at this tripod fiasco. So, yeah, I don't think it's risky if you're buying strong cash flowing properties. You know, at the end of the day, people need somewhere to live. And I think that in fact, we're going to see more and more millennials bucking the trend of wanting to own a giant McMansion, again, because they want to live a more fluid lifestyle. And I honestly do think buying a house can be a bad investment if it's your principal residence, if it's a McMansion, because a lot of us aren't going to live in the same city for 30, 40, 50 years. A lot of people want to have a lot more different experiences, myself included. I think there's a lot of value in constantly moving around and changing your surroundings. I know for myself, it's way easier to pick up new and more positive habits by changing my surroundings on frequent iterations, simply because for myself, the same surroundings, it becomes much easier to become stagnant and just get comfortable. And I think a lot of people, or at least around me, are more focused on experiences and growing these days. And I think that lends itself to not wanting to live in one place. So if you're not house hacking, I think that we're going to see a lot of people prefer to be renters simply because they're going to live a more fluid lifestyle. Hope that makes sense. Yeah. Jay, you're completely right. New computer. Do not play with the computer gods. I'm already playing Russian roulette with my future. I just need to go out and buy a new laptop. Same with Premiere Pro is a beast and needs all the RAM there is. So I should have already got a new laptop, because anything that can make me edit videos faster, get videos done faster, and just have a more enjoyable time with that process is a smart investment. This is literally, after my cell phone, this is probably the second most important tool I got. So it literally, that's a sign of me being cheap instead of frugal. So definitely, whenever you guys see me doing that, feel free to call me on it, because me not already having a new laptop is me being cheap, not frugal. Um, so Yuri was saying, so what's my renter profile look like on my properties? It is a wide range. I think it's wise to have a wide range. So I have 3 student rentals. So about 15 of my tenants would be students. I then have some properties in the Woodfield or downtown area in London, Ontario. So that's going to attract kind of young professionals. I got some houses and properties in more just working class or blue collar in the neighborhood. So those can attract young families as well as attract like retiree couples, or just kind of attract anyone. As well, I own some small bachelor unit properties in the transitioning oldies village. And so that can attract, for American friends, it'd be Section 8, but for people from Ontario, people that are on different social assistance programs. So maybe people on Ontario Works or other programs like that. Lord Player, it's quite hard to find cash flowing properties, especially in big cities like Montreal. Yeah, I'm not debating finding cash flow is difficult, but I think one opportunity in cities like Montreal may be Airbnb. And so investing solely for Airbnb is scary, simply because of the fact that your city can come in and create all kinds of crazy rules and all kinds of restrictions, and that can really torpedo your business. So it is nice to be able to buy a property that at least breaks even from a cash flow perspective, if say you were to rent it out on a month-to-month basis. But maybe the way you really make money from it is by Airbnb in it. I know Quebec, and I think Montreal in specific, have some more strict Airbnb rules. Correct me if I'm wrong, or let me know in the comment section down below. But in some more metro areas, I think that that's one of the interesting plays. As well, in expensive cities, you can maybe look to your suburbs or exurbs. And even if those don't make sense as rental properties, maybe there's the opportunity to rent to own properties. That may be a different way to get your return on investment, or you may have to focus on something like flipping, or maybe just lending out money lending out money as a hard money lender to other real estate investors or flippers. At the end of the day, there's lots of ways to make money in real estate. It doesn't necessarily have to come from cash flow. It's just for myself, for the long term, if I want to actually try and create passive income, I think relying on cash flow is the better choice for myself, particularly based on my city and region. So Christopher wanted to know, do I self-manage my properties or do I use a property management company? So I used to always manage my own properties up until I kind of quit my job. Then I managed them. I still self-managed for about a year. After that, I started outsourcing and experimenting with, having contractor property management, having kind of trying to insource property management. I played around with a lot of it. I've now handed it off to my sister. And so to me, a lot of that, my sister really knew nothing about being a landlord before I started outsourcing it to her. So she kind of learned by fire. But the reason I did that, and the reason Katie decided to want to participate in that, is it just kind of aligned with a lot of my goals. So it was a reason, an excuse for me and her to stay in touch more often, a reason for me to see my niece and nephew more often, and just a reason for us to kind of like on a Venn diagram, it just helped align some of our interests so that we could kind of hang out and see each other more. I'd like to think I'm a good influence on her. She's not a bad influence on me. So that's what's kind of going on right now with property management. I know it can be scary outsourcing your properties to a property management company. And the reason for that is one of your competitive advantages may be that you work really hard and you manage your property really well. And so by handing it off to a property management company, you may be losing that competitive advantage. And that is intimidating. That is scary. I think depend on referrals in that case, as well as don't be afraid to get lots of references and check out their current properties they're managing. Do drive-bys, try and talk to tenants as well as landlords that they're dealing with on a regular basis. Beyond that, don't be afraid to get creative with their compensation package and try and figure out ways to align both your and their interests so that they are getting you good tenants in your property, so they're not just slamming bodies in. because I've outsourced to property managers that literally would just take anyone to fill that unit to look like they were doing good, and then when things would fall apart, they would just blame the landlord gods. Which again, if like I need to take responsibility in that situation because I hired the wrong person, but a key indicator that I hired the wrong person was the fact that they weren't taking ownership of the situation. Checking out some more questions here. I'm looking to sell a house. What sort of renovations bring the quickest value? Is it new paint job, refinished floors and stairs? Yeah. So if you're looking to spend very little, if you're looking to spend very little money on renovations, painting is by far going to be your best solution, hands down. It's just so cheap, it's so fast, and it isn't going to require a permit. You can do it like in one day if you're trying to do a really fast turnaround. Beyond that, new flooring, particularly like laminate flooring, that's a quick way to really improve the looks of a property. And then in addition to new laminate flooring, painting the trim, and you could literally even just do something basic like a shoehorn or quarter round once you put your laminate floors down if you didn't want to tear off all the baseboards or all the trim currently. I think that those are really fast, easy ways to make a property look fantastic on a very low budget. Otherwise, obviously, focus on things like your kitchen and your bathroom. You can paint a lot of the existing boxes and cabinets. You could just paint those and the doors, and they'll look way better. Just like make it look bright and clean. And changing the countertop can actually be a very cheap solution. Same with literally changing the faucet in your kitchen. Change it to one of the ones where you can pull it down and spray and do all that. You can buy those for as little as $100, and you can buy really decent ones for $200. So I think that that's just a really nice touch, particularly if you're trying to sell your property to a first-time home buyer, let's say. I would really focus on just a little bit of the finishes that will separate you from someone that's just doing the absolute bare minimum. And so I think kind of the there's a word for that. I don't know why I'm struggling with words. Well, you guys know I'm bad with words, but I think that that's a really easy way to improve the property is just by spending that $200 on that fixture, outside of the traditional paint, flooring, all that basic good stuff. Yeah, okay, Lord Claire, look, I honestly think cities are shooting themselves in the foot. They're fighting a losing battle when they try and fight things like Uber, when they try and fight Airbnb. So if you're not reading the comments right now, he just mentioned that you need a certificate in order to essentially like rent out to tourists in Montreal. That's really frustrating, and that's definitely going to limit the pool of opportunities. Is there maybe a way around where if you live in one of the units, or if it's your primary residence, that might be a way you can play with it, but also you guys have some really intense enforcement of bylaws based on my awareness, so you also maybe don't want to mess with that. The other opportunity obviously is invest outside of your city, invest outside of your region, and either become an expert on a market that does cash flow or find a local expert that does and become the money partner. So Bubba asked, if you are a person considering on getting into real estate investing, would you recommend becoming a CPM, a certified property manager? Good question. I'm not sure if I've came across too many CPMs, or if I have, they haven't really made me aware of it. So I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about the program. I should look into that though, because I'm surprised that that's the first time I've got the question. I can't see how it would hurt. I would read some online reviews, try and talk to a couple of people that have already done it and get a feel for it. Otherwise, you really don't need any certification to actually be a property manager. So you could always just hang up your shingle and learn from the School of Hard Knocks. Or I think one of the best ways is job shadow or work for free or less than market value with someone that's a really successful real estate investor that you'd like to mimic their success. I should look into that, what a CPM is and whether it is worth it. Good question. Is there a standard list of materials that you use for renovations? So now we try and use a standard couple paint colors. We do the really basic, like a light gray and whites. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. I think the key is just find one you like and stick with it and paint all your properties that, paint all your units that, or have like 3 or 4 colors at most. That way you don't end up with like 10 different paint cans for 10 different properties. It doesn't seem like a big deal at the start, but these small little efficiencies and little hacks can really add up to, you keeping your sanity as your portfolio grows. Same with flooring. We use pretty much all one style flooring, which is nice if you got multiple projects on the go. We'll just buy a skid of that flooring at once. Usually you can negotiate a discount, get better terms, and again, you don't have to keep a whole bunch of different boxes of flooring at a bunch of different properties. You can just kind of keep it all in one garage, say. And so that's once you get a couple properties, I think one of the very attractive things is find a property with a detached garage that you can use kind of as your base for where you keep your spare paint, where you keep some extra flooring, where you keep some extra trim and all that. And then eventually you either hand that off to your property manager if you decide no longer to self-manage, or it's just a nice spot for you to have a workshop. Again, it's one of those things where having that workshop, if you know that you're going to build out your business and you're going to be hands-on for a while or insource your property management, I think that that's a very useful thing that you won't regret doing. Looking to buy my first investment property within the next few months. Just wondering what you think of the Hamilton Highbury area. Yeah, so I think that area is really interesting long term because of what we were talking about way earlier in the show about the factory and the Kellogg's redevelopment in the Western Entertainment District area. I think that has a lot of potential. So, when I look at a map and try and figure out where people coming from the highway would come into the city in order to get to the factory or get to the Kellogg's campus, they're probably going to come down Highbury. And outside of that, they may come down Highbury and then take off of Hamilton. So I think that that's going to only intensify from a commercial perspective. And so I think that the residential will be good there too. There's some interesting plays with some of the condos, out that way as well. So I think that it's got a lot of potential. Mr. and Mrs. Dink, who you maybe follow on Instagram, or Justin and Laura Cutler, they had a fourplex on Hamilton near Hamilton Highbury, and they did very well for themselves. So, within a year, they were able to resell their property. They bought the fourplex, stabilized it, improved it, and then sold it for a better profit, for a good profit. So I definitely think the Hamilton Highbury area is interesting as well. I think Ham and Eggs, so that's the Hamilton Egerton area. It's an area that doesn't get enough respect. I think it's going to become more and more attractive for young couples to move there. Friends of mine like Marty Denomy's moved there. I know friends of friends have moved to Hydro Street and a couple of those other streets. Memora is out that way, I think. And anyways, I think that that's going to become an area that there's not going to be one single catalyst that's really going to draw it up. I think it's just going to be a lot of young families moving there and taking ownership in the area and just improving it incrementally through DIY and just rolling up the sleeves. So I think those are two areas that don't get enough respect. Who pays for internet, landlord or tenant? I've done both. The thing is, as the landlord, when you're paying for the internet, you all of a sudden become the IT guy. That can become a real pain. So just make sure you're factoring that in when you're including the internet. Make sure that it's worth whatever hassle you're taking on. Make it clear whether the tenants need to just contact Rogers or Start.ca or whoever your internet provider is direct. If you can, literally put them on the, let them have access. There's different tiers you can set up, but let them have access where they can call in and get a hard reset and basic things like that done by your internet service provider, just to kind of save your hassles and management. Same with, even if you're providing internet, if the tenant can be the one to provide the router, that's just going to make your life simpler again, because you're never going to have to come out and reset their router for them, because that would be that get frustrating, particularly if they're not very internet or tech savvy. So just kind of things to consider. But same time, if you're going to do an Airbnb investment, I think you pretty much have to provide internet, or else you're probably going to get destroyed on reviews and not be able to rent out your property too often, because internet is life. I'm looking for a career change, and I think it may be a good idea for me. So that's in regards to the property management. I think the property management, I've joked about on my channel that I think it's a hard business. I think it is difficult to make money right now, the way a lot of property managers do it. That being said, I think that there's also tons of opportunity, because there's a lot of really bad property managers out there. And there's very few people that brag about their property managers. And when they have a great property manager, they literally won't tell you the name of their property manager because they're scared you're going to steal them. So Yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunity in property management, but you need to come with a fresh idea and a fresh perspective on it. I think way too many landlords and tenants come across the grizzled property manager. And what I mean by that is someone that's very world weary, someone that sees the tenant as a combatant, as someone to struggle against and fight with. And that's not good for anyone. So if you can actually have a friendly demeanor, if you actually are a people person, you can make a lot of money, I think, in property management, particularly if you start eventually working for yourself and hanging your own shingle. So if I have my primary residence for approaching a year and I decide to rent it out, can I deduct anything prior to that 1 year in Ontario? Can I deduct anything prior to that 1 year? So I think the question is, if you bought a property as your single residence, lived in it for a year, and while you lived there, you fixed it up, and then decided to start renting it out, are any of those expenses you incurred fixing it up tax deductible? Uh, you know, there's a bunch of gray areas in that question that people could stumble into or stumble through. Obviously, I'm not going to give tax advice. You should get a competent CPA, like my buddy Mitt's CPA, who's also a fellow landlord. I think that is one of the nice things. If you can find a CPA or an accountant and that happens to be a landlord themselves, they'll be much more open-minded and really big picture on how to structure things for your future. So you wouldn't be able to directly expense it. Like, let's say within 3 months you knew you were planning to, and you could really document for yourself that the reason you were incurring those expenses wasn't to improve your living, your standard of living, but instead to prep the property for rental. That would seem like a reasonable expense to me. Otherwise, there's on the flip side of the coin, let's say that you bought that property for $200,000, spent $50,000 fixing it up, and now it'd be worth $350,000. You, depending on the exact situation, how long you plan on holding the property, blah 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 blah, it might make sense to actually want to get like an appraiser out or get a realtor out to confirm that the property's worth $350,000, because in Canada, you have tax-free capital gains on your principal residence. And so that may be more enticing depending on the situation. So instead of trying to write off those renovations you incurred in the first year, it might be more enticing to consider just having that be a sunk cost essentially, but you get to recognize the capital gain tax free, if that makes sense. Obviously, again, talk to a CPA. That wasn't tax advice. And when I say talk to a CPA, I mean like hire a CPA and get their opinion. I technically am a CPA, but again, that was not tax advice. So it really depends on the situation in regards to that. But as you can see, at the same time, I know there's lots of people that are frugal on my channel and don't necessarily want to hire a CPA. So in that case, become friends with a CPA. I see 17 of you are watching it. I got 8 likes. It'd be really cool if like 9 of you smash the like button right now. So, Vlad asked, if I have, oh no, where'd that go? Vlad asked, if one of my tenants isn't really keeping the unit in good condition, messy, unsanitary kitchen, washroom, do you have any tips on how to approach the situation? Yeah, it depends on how long they've been doing it. First of all, obviously there's a lot of situational things to take into consideration, but first is don't immediately jump to landlord mode and like yell at them, because usually if you get too aggressive or confrontational with a person, they're going to really sink in their heels and push back. So I think that it's best just to discuss with them, just see kind of what's up, learn a tiny bit about their situation just so you can kind of get some context for it, and then maybe ask them if there's anything you can do to help assist them in bringing it up. Now, I'm not saying that you have to like hire a cleaner or anything like that, but I would just try and approach it in a friendly manner first. If immediately, they get on their hind heels or they start pushing back or they start bringing up bullshit excuses, then there are things you can do depending on how messy we're talking about. You need to look up, if you're in Ontario, there'd be an N form, and it would kind of depend on, they'd have to really be making it messy, mind you. or it would have to be impacting the enjoyment of the property for other tenants. That would probably be your fastest solution to try and remedy the situation, if you could get other tenants that live in the property or on the property to state how the conditions they're keeping their property in is drastically impacting the enjoyment for other tenants. Outside of that, if it's becoming a pest concern and things like that, that's a major issue. So you don't want to be passive with it. So it really does depend on the situation. If they're just run-of-the-mill slobs, though, you're not going to have a lot of ammunition. So your best situation, I think, is just to approach them as human beings, try and hear out their story, and then try and help create a solution that will get them to take better care of the property. Maybe there's something tiny you can offer them. Hey, if you help keep the property clean, if you tidy up your unit, I'll do X, Y, or Z, like maybe a little bonus, depending on the exact context. That was a very fuzzy answer. I'm sorry. Tyrone asked where are we here? Oh, Tyrone, for example, say I bought appliances or I'm building the deck prior to 1 year mark. Yeah, so hopefully my answer earlier, Tyrone, explained that. But if not, outside of the consideration of like how much value have you increased the property by versus how much expenses have you incurred, that'd be a major thing. And then obviously, what was your actual reason for doing those repairs, or what's a reasonable narrative you can create for the reason you did those repairs. That's going to play a major factor into how you approach the situation. Yeah, so I have no idea. How long have I been rambling on? 14 likes. I appreciate that, guys. So it's been about 36 minutes. Was there anything else I was going to talk about? Oh, I guess one thing I haven't updated you guys on recently is just my YouTube grind in general. And so if you don't follow me on Instagram, you're probably not aware of this because I share a lot of my YouTube stats on Instagram. But I make about $500 to $600 a month now on YouTube, so that's kind of cool. However, I've kind of brought in an outside contractor to help me with some of my editing and making my videos. Andrew, you've maybe seen him or you've heard him if you watched the guessing game or the how much does it cost game that myself and Jeff Weibel did. And so he cost me about $2,000 a month. So I've still managed to make sure that I'm losing money on YouTube every month. But actually last month, for whatever reason, I got about $100 more than I expected. I know I was talking to my buddy Peter, the Hungarian experiment, and the same thing happened to him. YouTube recently announced that they're trying to retain creators more and that they'd be paying out bonuses. I have no idea if that's just a coincidence or what, but extra $100 is extra $100, so I'm not going to complain about that. But yeah, right now I'm probably getting about 50 to 60,000 views per month on my YouTube channel. I definitely want to continue to grow that. Essentially, for Andrew to pay for himself, we need to get to about 400 to 500,000 views per month. I essentially get paid a penny per view. And so I'm sure you guys have noticed a lot of my content that's more than 10 minutes, I'll insert the occasional ad. I'm sure it's annoying, but it does help increase my CPM, or my cost per thousand, the amount of money I get paid per 1,000 views. And as well, I know a lot of YouTubers, like my buddy Graham Stephan, theorize that having ads in your video is more likely to get promoted by YouTube simply because it's in YouTube's best interest. It seems like a valid theory to me, so that's also one of the reasons I'm doing it. So I saw Patrick ask, with more people wanting more freedom within housing, would you think going into the business of renting out camper vans is a good idea? I think it's interesting, the idea of like camper vans, the idea of like RVs and other type mobile living situations, or tiny houses or bunkie houses, or converting a shed into an Airbnb like Michael Rosehart did. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of very interesting opportunities there. I also think there's a huge opportunity in being the person that builds the camper van and the person that builds the custom tiny house. Because I love tiny house porn. It's actually been a while since I just killed hours looking at it, but I used to do it all the time. And some of the prices on these custom homes are crazy. So I think there's actually a huge opportunity for real estate investors, particularly handy real estate investors or real estate investors that are good good mechanics as well, to get into that niche, because I see that as definitely growing, definitely becoming more popular as well. If you want to make money on YouTube, living in a van or living in a tiny house seems like a fantastic way to make some money. So there's also that consideration, because a lot of those channels blow up. Just like my buddy Randomly Interesting, Adam Steeper, who used to be the moderator on Cashflow Go, and you guys have seen him on random different videos and social media of mine. He's in the process right now of taking a big, what is the name? The big white boxy vans that like electricians and contractors use. How am I not thinking? It's not like it's oh, I'm embarrassed. But anyways, he's converting one of those into a camper van. I think it's a fantastic. It's not Savannah, but that's the right genre of vans. Not sure what's going on. Also, I've been hustling on Musically, if you guys aren't paying attention, and I'm pretty sure I got Lindsay Adams from the agency addicted to Musically. It's actually a pretty cool little fun platform, but it's dangerous because the audio quality is always really high, so it's really easy to just keep swiping through. Where like on Instagram, like there'll be a couple Instagram stories with terrible audio, and they'll really break me out of the experience, and it becomes easy for me to disengage from Instagram stories. Where on Musically, it's just easy to keep swiping. So yeah, if you haven't checked out Musically, I'd recommend you check it out. Particularly if you're interested in trying to become a social media influencer. It's in the top 100 apps, and I think you should, if you want to become an influencer, just being aware of what's going on in the top 100 apps is important, because even if you don't think Musically necessarily fits for you or your business today, I totally understand why. However, things like Instagram, we've seen those platforms pivot multiple times. So, maybe for your business, you thought, oh, posting a still photo and a small caption, that's not going to drive engagement or interest in my business. And maybe you're right, maybe you were wrong. But we saw then Instagram become the new Snapchat with the stories. Then all of a sudden there was live videos where you essentially could kind of do the same thing as YouTube live streams like this. Then they did IGTV, which is competing directly with YouTube and even trying to pull over YouTube creators. So once an app gets to a certain critical mass, we constantly see them pivoting. So even if you don't think Musically applies to your business today, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to keep an eye on it. Same with those of you that are in the know, let me know what other social media apps or platforms should I at least be watching, if not actively engaging on. So I saw a few more comments come in. What are the best ways to finance the renovations for a BRRRR property if you've placed all your money into the down payment? So you can do like, what's the right term? It's not like a construction mortgage, but you can do different, there's different mortgage products where you can essentially access tiers or levels of financing from the bank in order to, you're maybe like at 50% complete, then you can get them to advance some money for you to do the next stage of renovations. If you're doing a BRRRR and you've literally invested all your money in the down payment, you're probably going to need to get a hard money lender. You might have to borrow from another investor, and you're probably going to pay a very high interest rate. But if the BRRRR makes sense, it makes sense, so it's not a terrible idea. The other option is you can get some credit cards with some very favorable terms, and as long as you're confident that you're going to be able to refinance that property at the higher value, you can defer payments for like 12 months or be interest free for 12 months, blah, 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 blah. Figure out which credit card works best. I think if you get like a Home Depot in Canada, there's some really interesting ways that you can like not pay for 12 or 18 months and not necessarily incur any interest or like expensive interest that way. So that would be another way. And you can get some of these credit cards depending on your credit score and your personal financial situation. You can probably get 10, 15, 20, $30,000, and that can go a really long way and with strategic renovations on a BRRRR investment property. Sprinter vans, yes, that's what it is. Thank you, Kylome. Sprinter van. How did I forget what a Sprinter van is? Yeah, Ling Ping got it right too. What's up, Puerto Rico? I want to come to Puerto Rico. We met a really cool guy from Puerto Rico that works for a car dealership that's really on the cutting edge of social media. And it just sounded like a fun place to be as well. Is it Peter Schiff? I think I heard on Joe Rogan's podcast was really promoting Puerto Rico, and no state taxes sounds cool. Not that I'm going to be moving to the States, but it just sounds like a very interesting place. And it sounds like a lot of cryptocurrency investors are moving there as well, again, because of the no state tax. At least that's what I think it is. I'm not a U.S. tax expert. What jobs do you believe help with becoming a real estate investor? Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different adjacent businesses that you can get into or work for that will teach you a lot about real estate investing. Myself, being a CPA and working for a small firm meant I ended up doing taxes for a lot of small landlords. And when you do the taxes for the small landlords, you end up talking to them on the phone, you end up emailing them, you get their contact information, plus you get to see if they're making money. And that really opened my eyes to the opportunities with investing in real estate. So that worked for me. You know, being a realtor, I think, is a great way to get into the real estate game and learn a lot and get paid while doing it. I think becoming a property manager is an interesting play. Just, I think that make sure that you do your homework on it, because I think there's a lot of people that do a lot of work for very low pay in property management. So I hate to see you be one of those people. But beyond that, you could also, paralegals deal with a lot of landlord-tenant board issues and Residential Tenancy Act issues in Canada. So that would be another similar industry. Same with construction. If you can learn about doing renovations, or like I recommend on my channel, do some renovations yourself, simply to know whether you're being ripped off by a contractor. Recently, we're working on a major renovation to one of my triplexes, and the range of quotes we are getting literally feels criminal. It feels criminal, the difference in pricing that we're being quoted. And if we had no idea, if we weren't doing our homework, if we weren't getting multiple quotes, if we just took the first quote, we literally probably would have paid more than double. So learning a trade is fantastic as well. If you learn a trade and then work for a small contractor or hang your own shingle, you can start working for local landlords. And again, you're going to learn a ton from those local landlords. You're going to build up your network. I think it's a great opportunity. As well, I think becoming an expert in finding private deals, doing this sort of stuff, is a fantastic way to get paid and learn about real estate. It's what's working for Adam Martin right now. He's coming up against some very interesting opportunities. We're going to be doing a video about a great deal he scored for himself. I'm really proud of him on this deal. We got very creative with how we approached it. You know, we ended up paying the owner of the property, what did we pay him? Or, well, not we, Adam's paying him, what would that work out as a percentage? Like 5 or 6% over asking, but we got some really interesting favorable terms. And so I'm really excited to share that with you guys, because literally Adam Martin, the start of this year, the start of 2018, really knew nothing about real estate investing. And by the end of this year, he's at least going to have one rental property, but I'm hoping there's going to be 2 or 3. I'm hoping we can get him up to at least being $1 million in debt. Is that a good goal? But I'm really excited to be mentoring someone. And a lot of you have been reaching out to me recently, a lot of young hustlers at least, asking about, you know, can you job shadow? How can you get involved? And the key is, Adam really showed me his commitment to work. And so what he did was he said, hey, I'll work for you as a contractor until you take me seriously. I said, okay. And he lived in Guelph and was driving every single day to London, Ontario. And he's did that, and he's done that for months. And that sort of commitment is just really rare. It's really easy to talk a big game. It's really easy to be excited for one day, one weekend, or 1 month. But to put in the work consistently, month after month after month, is extremely rare. So, you know, if you start hustling on your own, trying to buy private deals, there was a guy that impressed me recently on Instagram, and so he's coming down to meet with me tomorrow, and we're going to sit down and talk about finding private deals, about wholesaling real estate, all that good stuff. And what really sold me was he lives in the GTA, and he's looking at and driving to Sudbury to chase down deals. He's going to Hamilton, he's going to Oshawa. He's really committed to just making shit work. and taking ownership of the situation. So I think that that's just key. If you put in the work, no matter what industry you focus on that's either in real estate or adjacent to it, you will succeed. Simple as that. What else is going on here? What's up, everyone? What do you do to relax when you're done with real estate for the day? Yeah, so like recently I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. I've been like doing the scrum stuff, which I find just like it sounds like work and it technically is, but it's a great way to decompress and just kind of offload a bunch of the stuff going in my head, out of my head and onto the wall instead. And it actually like relieves me from stress and tension. As those of you that like have been watching for a while and stuff, or like watch all my stuff know, I do enjoy smoking weed, although ever since Grant Cardone's 10X event, I've drastically cut back my intake and actually went weed free for 2 weeks, so that wasn't necessarily a way that I was unwinding. One thing, this is like really, I don't know, this maybe sounds lame, but one of the things that I've really been enjoying is I follow Simnet Nutrition, and amazing guy, he's in BC. He literally just seems like an all-round awesome dude, and he makes these like smoothie bowls that are big picture very healthy for you and taste amazing. It tastes like candy and ice cream. So I've been making these like mixed berry smoothie bowls. Love those. But then otherwise, just like hanging out with Jeff Weibo, hanging out with my buddy Adam Steeper, doing all that, and yeah, it's just really. I don't know, what else do I do for fun? Oh, like last weekend, went and saw Jordan Peterson speak at Centennial Hall here in London. That was really fun. That was really exciting. Actually, I guess one of the things I really enjoy doing is just like having deep conversations with people. And so I highly recommend you find some people that are deep thinkers, people that will literally will allow you to have a safe space where you can talk through your thoughts, your emotions, your plans, and will just hear you out on stuff. It's so powerful and so I really enjoy that stuff these days. I used to go to the bars and drink and that stuff, and no judgment to those that do. It just no longer aligns with my core values or principles. I love board games. I'm a huge board game nerd. Now, because I've been trying to embrace minimalism, I've been really trying to pare back on the games I own, but I still really enjoy it. I don't have it nearby, but Seafall. Seafall is like one of the most exciting things for me. And so what it is it's a board game. It's a legacy board game, and what that means is each time you play it impacts all future games. And so the way we're playing it is myself and 4 other buddies that I've known all since grade school, which is crazy to think. We play it together, and we get together maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks. And it's a reason and it's an excuse for us to sit down and chat and catch up. And these are really long board games. So they're usually anywhere between 2 and 4 hours, but I think we've had some games go as long as like 5. And think of it as kind of, what would be the best? It's essentially like a turn-based strategy game. So if you're into like computer games like that, it's like a mini Civilization, that sort of feel, or like a Europa type thing, kind of like the board game Diplomacy meets the board game Risk. It was made by the same creator as Risk Legacy, so I'm definitely a huge board game nerd, so that's definitely one of the ways I unwind. I can't believe I didn't think of that off the top. What else do we got here? So, Van Brusa, I've been considering finding work as a mortgage underwriter since I'm doing insurance underwriting now. Might be another option to get your foot in real estate. Oh yeah, I completely forgot about lending. Becoming, working for a bank, working as a mortgage broker, any of those are really great options to learn about real estate. Same with if you want to learn a lot about real estate, being an appraiser I think is often an overlooked niche as well, because you're literally getting paid to look at houses and figure out what's wrong with them. I actually probably should do a video on why being an appraiser is a good idea. Let's throw that up on the Scrum board right now. Appraiser video. Becoming a mortgage broker I think is fantastic. You'll learn a lot about lending rules. You're getting paid to meet probably a lot of landlords, particularly if you could specialize in dealing with landlords and dealing with income properties. That would be an awesome opportunity. Wow, 25 of you guys. This is a good time to go live apparently, but only 16 likes. That's like, there's like 9 of you right now that could be smashing that like button. Just FYI there. Um, Here's one I've always wondered. What do you think Jordan Peterson would think of the fire movement? I think Jordan Peterson, actually, really good question. I don't know, so I can't say with any certainty, but I would expect that he would view the fire movement as being a good idea. The idea of putting your house in order, the idea of cleaning your room. I think the idea of fire really ties well, in my opinion, with that. Simply because you're taking one aspect of life that a lot of people have in chaos, which is money and their management and their personal finances, and you're bringing order to it. And that's a big theme in a lot of Jordan Peterson's talks. So I think that would align very well with it. As well, I think that the idea of getting to a level of financial independence, getting to say like firepreneurship, would align with, again, a lot of his teaching, simply because it would allow the person then to take more time to reflect on themselves and reflect on the world and just become more worldly, I guess. That was a lot of words in one sentence. But yeah, I think that it would align really well. But actually, that's a fantastic question. I'm so embarrassed that when I saw him talk in London, I didn't try and tweet that question, because I really would love to know that. You know, my concern on the flip side of it, why he maybe wouldn't like the idea, is hear the word retirement immediately and think that people are just trying to peace out. But I think we all know that that's not what fire's about. Fire's not about spending the next 60 years on a beach or a golf course. It's about just being in control of your financial lives. It's just about having the ability to do what you want, when you want, how you want. And actually, yeah, so let's talk a little bit further about that. I would say that aligns really well, again, with a lot of Peterson's teachings, that you're responsible for your life, that you're in charge, and that as an individual you need to take ownership of the situations that you get yourself into. And again, that's what fire to me is all about. It's about having control of your financial life. It's about slaying that chaos dragon that is money to so many people in this world. I'm going to do a video on that. Thank you, guys. This is proven very productive. I'm going to count this as work right now. So what other questions do we got here? What's the lowest mortgage rate you ever got? What's your preferred bank? My preferred bank is whatever bank will give me a sponsorship and give good rates to my audience. But the banks I've dealt with most often are, actually, I don't know if that's good to tell the internet. Any of the big 5 banks are good. What was about here? What's the lowest interest rate we got? So we had a variable interest rate that I think was prime minus 0.75. Or no, maybe it was prime minus 0.9. I forget, but essentially we looked at it as being given free money because it was ridiculous. At one point I think we would have been below 2% in actual interest rate being paid. A lot of people get hung up on trying to get the absolute best interest rate, and there's nothing wrong with that. Save money where you can, but if you need to be getting a 2% or a 3% interest rate, otherwise the deal doesn't work. It's one of those things where I would question whether you had a deal in the first place. So just something to be aware of there, guys, that, yeah, I think that too many people find themselves with a really tight deal and they're trying to squeeze every little penny out of it to make it a better deal. And I think that that's just a sign that you probably don't have a deal in the first place. A lot of real estate investors, a lot of gurus will tell you you make your money on the purchase, and that resonates with me simply because, if you buy wrong, it's really hard to renovate your way out of that problem. You can get random appreciation that can bail you out, but that seems like a poor long-term plan. Hey Matt, can you do a video at one point on the logistics of finalizing a private real estate deal, especially the details involved after the grind and work required to get a deal in the first place? For example, how do you write up a contract? Yes. So how do you write up a contract? I literally am going to shoot a video on that this weekend. I'm just going to walk you guys through a purchase and sale agreement and try and help demystify it. Again, it's not legal advice. Don't sue me. I'd be totally pissed if you guys tried to sue me. But yeah, I want you to help try and demystify that as well. Yeah, because a lot of people think that it's a really complicated process when it honestly isn't. A lot of real estate agents, or there's a sub segment of real estate agents that I don't consider to be naturally gifted or intelligent, and yet they're able to still pull off writing up these contracts. The nice thing is, in Ontario, in Canada, a lawyer is still going to be involved with the execution and closing of the real estate deal. So, and the way that like law is set up, like you can't accidentally sell yourself into slavery. You can't, you can definitely screw up a purchase and sale agreement, and you should take it seriously. But way too many people have just a lot of uncertainty around that, and with uncertainty comes fear, and they immediately think it's impossible, or that there's no way they could ever do it themselves. You could definitely do it themselves. That being said, actually, someone reached out to me the other day and showed me a contract from Law Depot. This is not a slam against Law Depot, but I really would not prefer that purchase and sale agreement. The one that he showed me, I didn't like it. And it seemed very difficult to navigate and very unnatural. I wasn't on the user end of it. I was just trying to help him out. I was just trying to give him perspective. I wasn't giving him legal advice. And I shared with him some of my concerns that it seemed like he was having a very difficult time trying to find what I would consider to be very standard conditions to insert into a purchase and sale agreement. So yeah, let's do a video on that. Let's demystify purchase and sale agreements, because there's no reason not to. If you've ever bought a house though, literally just look at the purchase and sale agreement that your realtor filled out on your behalf and go through it line by line. It's At the end of the day, it's actually pretty much plain English. It's not that difficult to understand. So that's a great way to start, and that's literally the video I will make for you guys in the near future. Yeah, Bubba, I think you should consider becoming an appraiser. I think that it's a great way to learn a lot about your real estate market and become an expert in it. I don't know what's involved with it. It could be a lot of work, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it. How did I become friends with Graham Stephan? Good question. The way I became friends with Graham Stephan, actually, the funny thing is, I've been thinking about doing a video with this. I think it's even on my board. Where is it? Yeah, it's somewhere up there. Yeah, I think it's up there at least. But the way I became friends with Graham Stephan was a video of mine got posted on Reddit, and it was around the time Graham was starting his YouTube channel. I think he had like around 200 or 250 subs. I was rocking 300 or 350 subs, and he started commenting on my channel. He reached out to me, and we essentially chatted and just kind of became friends, and we're sharing YouTube tips. And the rest is history. I blew up, became a major YouTube star, and Graham's barely got any subs on YouTube now. No, he's about to hit like 200,000 subs. He was doing like 100,000 views in a 48-hour period. He's just absolutely been crushing it. And he may be modest about his success on YouTube, but he has put in an insane amount of work. He pays a lot of attention. He's worked very hard at building a community on YouTube, and he deserves all the success he's had on YouTube. But yeah, that's essentially how we met, was just one random Reddit post. So someone just shared my video on Reddit, which honestly, guys, it would be so amazing if you're a Reddit user, if you shared your favorite video of mine more often on Reddit, because it's really helped my channel grow. It introduced me literally to Graham Stephan, and yeah, Graham was just an amazing guy, and we hit it off, the early retirement extreme stuff. He's very frugal. He's very good at real estate investing. He's an expert in his local niche of high-end listings in California and LA. And yeah, he's just been an awesome guy to know. Myself and Jeff will definitely be meeting up with him. He's going to come and be one of our speakers at our Vegas conference. He's said he's willing to come back to OREC 2019 as well. We want to go out there sometime this year to California and hang out with him again because it was my first time last year and it was a ton of fun, and I can't wait to do it again. Um, what else we got going on here? Uh, Can you explain the post-it wall? Yeah, so Caitlin, I did explain that earlier, but essentially this is a Scrum board. I highly recommend those of you that want to get more organized with your life, get the audiobook Scrum. You can listen to it on Audible, or I'm sure you can borrow it through like a library program, or if you got an Audible membership, just get it. But the idea, the high level is we got like 4 different categories. We got a project or storyboard section. We have a to-do list. We got what we're actually working on, and we got shit we've done. And so the idea, the way we're implementing it is any task that goes on the to-do has to be able to be accomplished within a week. And if it can't be, you haven't broken it down small enough. I think it's just a great way for me to stay super organized. It's very tactile, and I'm a tactile person, so I literally went out and spent like $50 on post-it notes. I got like 100 different Sharpies, and it's just something that allows me to really break down my projects, my tasks into small bite-sized chunks. And I know for myself, I have a tendency to procrastinate, and I procrastinate the entire project until the end. So things like this allow me to slowly chip away at a project rather than force myself into a corner and then panic the day before and try and get shit done. As well, it's a great way to not miss any loose ends. I'm not necessarily the most detail-oriented individual, so again, something like this helps me really focus on the details. And it also will help you highlight what's actually a priority, what's important to you, and what you actually are really procrastinating hard on. And what I mean by that is right now, like in my other Scrum board, you can see that I haven't moved anything along on the Vegas conference. So clearly there's some uncertainty, there's some chaos there that I'm naturally trying to avoid. And it's really highlighted for me. So I was like, Jeff, we need to have a meeting Sunday or Monday about this Vegas thing because it's clear in the last week I've done not a single task related to the Vegas conference. And that is silly because it is coming up fast. So it's a great way to manage your projects. I highly recommend you look into it. There's a lot of great resources as well on the internet, so check that out. I'm 21 with an income of about 25K, self-employed, live with parents. Do you think I could even qualify for a loan for a rental with 775 credit score, no debt? I have 40K for down payment. Yeah, Dan, you definitely could. You might have to work with a lender or a mortgage broker that deals with self-employed people. It depends really on what the value of the property you're trying to purchase is. If you were in, say, Ontario, Canada, and you didn't, if you were in Ontario, Canada, and you weren't purchasing it as a principal residence, I would think with that 40K, you wouldn't be able to purchase more than a $200,000 property. But it may be possible for you to qualify for that $200,000 property. There's things like stated income. So banks and mortgage brokers understand that self-employed people have a lot more deductions and a lot more tax planning associated with their income. And so essentially what it is they understand that self-employed people sometimes are aggressive with their expenses for tax reasons. So they'll allow you to state your income to a degree, and if you can prove or show the deposits, there's a way you could maybe qualify for more of a mortgage than you naturally think at first. You may end up paying a higher interest rate, but at the end of the day, that's just one of the trade-offs of being self-employed. But it's definitely still possible. So just look into it, network. If you're getting no's, just start rephrasing your questions and start talking to more people because there is a way to do it. What is Cash Flow to Go? Cash Flow to Go was a weekly show myself and Jeff Weibo did for about 8 or 9 months. So we started it in September of 2017 and it went until like February of this year. So it was just kind of like, it was very similar to this. We would do it every Friday night at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time and we would try and answer your questions. Hey, what's up, top five? Appreciate you jumping in. Um, and yeah, who else do we got here? Is there a limit of how many FHA loans I can make? Good question. FHA is specific to the United States. We have something similar called CMHC loans, and so there definitely is a restriction on how many insured mortgages or CMHC loans you can get in Canada. Um, Honestly, it used to be way easier, but now you're pretty much going to be restricted to two. But you can slowly like get more as you take the insurance off the older properties. So that's kind of not a workaround, but that's a way you can kind of plan that like over say a 5 or 6 year period, you might be able to have two, three, maybe even four, but you're either going to have to be refinancing these mortgages in order to get the insurance off of it. As well, we have three entities in Canada that do it. We have SameHC, which is the one most people will be familiar with. We have um, Gemi, and I'm not sure what the third one is off the top of my head. I'm about to have my cell phone die, so I'll plug it in because I'm enjoying this. And let's keep this going for a little bit longer, assuming my phone doesn't die this second. All right. Oh, man, this tripod. This tripod is making me so angry. Oh. Okay. Okay, tripod, that's enough. That's really distracting. Sorry, all of a sudden it's all shaking on my end now. Um, so I just saw Lord Players helping out Dan M. Depends on the property's value and its income. The banks consider half the income, then add it to your annual income. Um, yeah, so yeah, that sounds like some solid advice going on there. So yeah, that's anyone else got any other questions? Otherwise, I might wrap it up. I have been rambling on for 71 minutes, but it's been a while since I did live videos, so this has been fun just kind of catching up with you guys. Really appreciate the 24 of you that have smashed the like button over the last 71 minutes. Those of you that haven't, it'd be super cool if you do. Otherwise, feel free to DM me on Instagram with your questions or hit me up with video suggestion ideas. I know sometimes it takes me a really long time to go from you suggesting the video to the video coming out, but it does go on a list somewhere and usually eventually gets made. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. As always, Matt McKeever. And remember, making money is a team sport. There's more than enough money in this world for us to all make it, but if you're not saving it, I mean, like, what's the point, guys? Thanks. Bye!